So, people know that I like adventure games, but are there adventure games I hate? Yes, and this video is all about my bottom 5 least favorite adventure games. Now I'll grant that while some adventure games frustrate me, I very rarely genuinely, completely despise them. A good example is Monkey Island 2, which is my least favorite Monkey Island game due to its cryptic puzzles and mediocre ending, but it's still a Monkey Island game, and I love Monkey Island, so there. Some dishonorable mentions include broadly any and all adventure games that use that stupid text parser system. Look, I love Leisure Suit Larry, but I could never get into Larry 2 or 3 because of this interface. I also don't really like the LucasArts games made before The Secret of Monkey Island, with Zack McCracken being my particular least favorite. And one game which some of you might have expected to see here, but which I'm not going to include, is Alex Kidd in High Tech World. Why? Well, for one, it was an adventure game made by a company not known for them, so obviously it wasn't going to be good, but more so, after having made that Alex Kidd video, I realized that this game wasn't even originally an Alex Kidd game at all, but a different game which was simply made a part of the series after the fact. So, because of that, I'm excluding it. But now, let's get on with the list. Number 5, Battle of the Bands. Some of you might be a little surprised seeing as how Strong Bad's Cool Game for Attractive People was on my top 10 adventure games list. However, unlike a lot of other Telltale games, Strong Bad's game wasn't really an episodic adventure game, so much as it was a series of 5 mini-adventure games with self-contained plots, and Episode 3 was the worst by a large margin. One of the things that pissed me off about it is that Homestar Runner was well known for its parodies of various musical genres, so an entire episode of the game devoted to it should have been great. It officially starts with a plot about Strong Bad trying to get his Fun Machine console fixed, before the plot becomes about organizing a battle royale of the bands. What's so disappointing is that none of the new songs featured in this episode were actually all that great. The only one I liked was Homestar's smooth ballad, Food-Related Love. In addition, this episode was the first that felt really linear, with none of the puzzles being particularly memorable or good. I mean, episode 4 was linear too, but it was supposed to be a home movie, so it made sense. However, Battle of the Band still has a few solid jokes and funny moments, so it's not all out terrible. It was just incredibly disappointing. Number 4, Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis. Oh boy. Some of you will hate me for this, but I already made a pretty extensive review video cataloging all my problems with Fate of Atlantis. To summarize, it's an overrated Raiders of the Lost Ark knockoff, with claustrophobic environments, stupid characters, and loads of cryptic shit that doesn't make any sense. The main plot is very uninteresting, which already killed my interest in the game. But the fact that the first half of the game is so geographically limited gets on my nerves even more. And Sophia is the most useless and annoying supporting character from any Indiana Jones media I have ever seen. To give the game its due credit, there are some funny moments, Doug Lee's voice performance is on point, and some of the puzzles are randomized, which at least gives you some replay value, that is, if you can be bothered to replay this game. It's just not a very fun game with a really unoriginal plot, but at least it has that robust LucasArts production behind it. It's a turd, but a furiously polished turd. Number 3, Siberia. Siberia belongs in an interesting subset of early 2000s adventure games alongside The Longest Journey and Runaway, a road adventure, in that it was seen by many as one of the last paragons of a bygone era of point-and-click adventure games. The difference here is that The Longest Journey and Runaway are actually good games, and Siberia sucks. Okay, where to begin? Maybe this dull but utterly aesthetic? I mean, seriously, I'm the kind of guy who actually thinks Industrial Decay can look nice, but I think this has got to be one of the least visually stimulating games I've ever played. And on top of that, the game has a story which can be best described as really fucking boring. Seriously, I don't care about any of the characters in this game, and even the incidental characters are mostly annoying. That's partly because, like Runaway, this game was obviously originally made in another language, but then clumsily translated into English and apparently voiced by a bunch of guys who don't know how to do any European accents. Now that alone is enough to make this one of the most mind-numbingly boring games I've ever played, but it's only enhanced by the fact that I'm pretty sure all you do for 80% of the game is run between locations. Seriously, There are so few puzzles in this game, I think it would be more accurate to call this game an interactive soap opera, except it's not even interesting enough to be that. Oh yeah, and one more thing. The game ends on a fucking cliffhanger. I have never played an adventure game which I've detested so quickly and so unabashedly as this one. And no, I didn't play Siberia 2, but I did play Siberia 3. It's moderately better, but also has a cliffhanger ending. I'm impressed. I've never seen a game company make an entire adventure game series about practically nothing. Number 2, Runaway 2, The Dream of the Turtle. Okay, I mentioned Runaway, so let's now talk about the disappointing sequel. The Runaway games were made by the Spanish developer Pendulo. And although the first Runaway had some clunky design choices and a really hammy localization effort, the good thing about the first Runaway's admittedly wordy dialogue was how you were never confused about what you were trying to do in the game. Runaway 2 was a game I really wanted to like because I liked the first Runaway so much. And it still had the same voice cast, but much better localization, snazzier cutscenes, and way fewer bugs than the first game. But this game let me down in the most harshest way possible. In the first Runaway, you met Joshua. And before you're all shocked at this obviously racist Asian stereotype character, let me just stop you and say that Joshua, he's bad. He's like the worst character from any adventure game. You just instantly dislike him. But he wanted to get abducted by aliens, you help him accomplish his goal, all's well that ends well, right? Well, guess who's the central character in the plot of Runaway 2? Fucking Joshua. Seriously, this alone would have been enough to wreck the whole game for me, but for the first half of the game, the real thing which pisses me off is how the plot progresses, literally only because Brian's turned into such a fucking douche. Then there's the design problems. Oh my god. Where to begin? Locations that are too big for the screen, and it takes you forever to get anywhere. Important inventory items getting littered to the sides of the screens where you're bound to not notice them. None of the action options being self-explanatory, and having you literally use items on other items without any indication that you should do that. Oh, and the game ends on a cliffhanger. Now, Runaway has high production values and even a few genuinely funny moments, but it is easily one of the most frustrating and annoying games I've ever played. And number 1, Broken Sword, the Angel of Death. Yep, I've already made a pretty extensive review video on this one as well, so I won't waste your time and just tell you what the real problems are. Shitty animations, shitty characters, buggy interface, and just an overall confusing, badly written, and incredibly disappointing story. Did I mention that this is an adventure game? You know, the story's kind of important. With all the other games on this list, no matter how bad their stories were, no matter how cryptic they were, no matter how much of a letdown they were at least competently put together by a clearly expert team of game developers. The fact that the end product sucked is unfortunate, but at least with all the other entries, it's clear that they at least tried. The Angel of Death isn't just a bad installment of one of my favorite adventure game series, it's just a bad game, period. It looks like it hasn't been finished. It doesn't look like the developers even tried to make a halfway decent game. It's just all out bad. Hands down, the worst adventure game I have ever had the displeasure of playing. And that's the list. Name some of your least favorite adventure games in the comments below. I'm Hunter the Hunter Mäkinen. See you on the next one.